Welcome to The Strain Podcast, a Southgate Media Group production, where we talk all about Guillermo del Toro's horror fantasy series, The Strain. We are currently covering the series' third season on FX. I'm your host, Blair Knight Graves, the executive producer and host of Professional Geek Podcast, and with me today is Kyle Tremblay, the editor-in-chief at TVBinges.com. You can find us on Twitter at BlairLovesTV and at KyleLovesTV. And remember, both Kyle and Blair have an E at the end. You can also follow our podcast Twitter handle and live tweet with us every week at The Strain Pod. And don't forget to play hashtag The Strain Bingo every week for a chance to be on our show. Hey, Kyle, how you doing today?
Blair, I have an honest question for you. A serious question.
What's up?
That I want to address right up front because it could change the very nature of what we're going to talk about for the next half hour.
Okay.
If we converted the Strain podcast to a David S. Pumpkins podcast, would we get more listeners? And would our more importantly, would our listeners be happier?
You know, what's up with that is I don't want to rag on our listeners because we have like about 10,000 of you guys and we are really stoked that you guys are listening. So I'm not going to rag on you guys.
No.
But it is entirely possible that what you are hypothesizing is that, yes, it would be true that we would indeed.
No disrespect intended to the listeners. I have the utmost respect for them and I want to save them from what is going to be what I suspect is a very depressing half hour of talk between you and I. Just by talking about the David S. Pumpkins sketch from last night's SNL. And we could just do that for a half hour and have a joyous conversation. And we could replay it on the podcast. And it would be great and fun. And it's changed my life. But I guess since we're called the Strain Podcast, I guess we're just going to have to roll with it. And talk about this freaking show.
We are gonna have to talk about it. A little bit unfortunately. Today, Kyle, you and I are going to be discussing Season 3, Episode 9, titled Do or Die, which was the penultimate episode of Season 3, and was written by the writing duo David Weddle and Bradley Thompson. This season, David Weddle and Bradley Thompson previously wrote Season 3, Episode 2, titled Bad White, and Season 3, Episode 6, The Battle for Central Park, which are both episodes that I believe that you and I would remember a little bit because Bad White was such a disaster after such a good season opener, and The Battle for Central Park had a lot of its own issues. So yes, today we're talking about Do or Die.
Is it just tradition now? Is it canon that at the end of every season the Strain falls the F apart? Like, is it just gonna melt down at the end of every season and completely forget that it's a show on television that viewers are watching and supposed to enjoy? Like, is this just a tradition unlike any other? That the Strain is just going to just completely collapse at the end of every season and become like a puddle of nonsense? Because that's where we're at right now. That's my review. That's my hot take review of this episode. A puddle of nonsense.
Yeah, I don't know. I tweeted earlier today that I'm looking forward to the documentary about the disastrous production decisions that went into the writing of the show. Yeah. And I feel very strongly that there's a very strong possibility that the show will go down in history as one of the biggest cluster Fs on television ever.
I mean, it's funny, the other podcast I host is about new TV shows where all we do is we watch a pilot and we talk for 15 minutes about the pilot. Yeah, and so I watch every network pilot that premieres, which as you can imagine involves a lot of really, really bad shows. And there are certainly shows that lack a basic that lack a basic level of competence than the Strain lacks, like that are lower on the basic competence scale than the Strain. There are shows that are like incomprehensibly bad that we review fairly regularly for network pilots, but the Strain is bad in a way that I agree with you. It's almost unique in the way in which the Strain is bad. Possibly because it has good moments, and there were even good moments in this episode, I thought. And those good moments just make the show's overall incompetence stand out so much more. You know, it's like when you watch a new sitcom and it's unfunny, and when you watch the new Kevin James sitcom, which is titled Kevin Can Wait, you just think like this show is made by people who hate every person on screen. The actors hate being there. They're just cashing a paycheck. The writing is horrible. It's all bad. End of story. End of review. But The Strain, it's like they're trying. Like there's something like I can't put my finger. Like there's something about The Strain's like effort that they put in, and how it still goes so bad that it's like a television tragedy. What happens with The Strain? It's like they try, and they just get it so wrong. Like this so wrong. Like an episode like this just makes you think like, wow, it's not an effort problem. They're just bad at this.
It's like a communication problem, or like having too much of a budget and not enough experience. Like, but it's also like Carlton Cuse, who he was like the showrunner for the very end of Lost, right? Which is like the part that everybody said was weird and confusing.
But I think he was also like involved in the creation of Lost.
Oh, okay.
I think he was with I didn't watch much Lost, but yeah. So, but yeah, either way, like I think he's generally well respected. Isn't he involved with Bates Motel?
Yes.
So it's like Bates Motel is a pretty well respected show.
Mm-hmm.
I don't get it. I genuinely don't understand how I mean, I guess we'll get into specifics. We're just sort of circling the show right now and talking big picture. But I don't get how you could like storyboard this out and not throw every storyboard in the trash once you saw it.
Yeah, like I watch a lot of genre television, and I know that like sci-fi and fantasy has a lot of ups and downs. Really, really strong sci-fi and fantasy like Game of Thrones and Battlestar Galactica are like down in the history books of being some of the best television made, period. And then like there's random stuff that the Sci-Fi Network makes, and then there's 12 Monkeys on the Sci-Fi Network, which is fine or good, and then sometimes it's good. It fluctuates between good and fine. Mostly good, I think you and I have agreed. And then you have things like The Vampire Diaries or Grimm, or like those really like popcorn, like bubblegum, like it's really, but like those have really strong continuity. Like even though they're like stupid, they have really strong continuity and like direction and understanding and like purpose.
Yes, and they're intending to be what they are. Grimm is not pretending to be Game of Thrones, you know? Grimm is executing what it's trying to execute. And obviously, there are good episodes, there are bad episodes, there are good stories, there are bad stories. But in general, Grimm is the show that it wants to be. You know, and Vampire Diaries is the show that it wants to be.
Right. But what does The Strain want to be?
Oh, the Strain wants to be the greatest show ever in the history of television, is my read on the situation based on the last run of episodes. I feel like I know what the show is trying to do. With its storytelling, and once I figured that out, it just made it worse, because it's really not working.
No, it is not. It is not at all, and you and I are very unhappy campers today. I can tell.
This is miserable. Blair, I love talking to you, and you know, we started this podcast so we could talk to each other. I don't want to do this right now. This is maybe the only podcast we've ever done where I don't want to record a podcast, because I know a lot of like, I don't know if anyone associated with The Strain listens to this, but I know they all work very hard, and I know that it's like, it's not individuals' faults, you know, like there's some sort of collective thing going on that might come down to one or two decision makers, or it might just be something more spread out. I don't know. Is the point. I don't know who to criticize about this, and so it's kind of comes off as criticizing everyone, and I feel bad if someone's listening to this and thinks that I'm saying they did a bad job. It's just that the show is bad. I don't know what else to say. Like, I don't know how not to say that.
It's like a poorly written paper. Yeah. It's like it's not bad in the way like I think that's what I was trying to say with like the Vampire Diaries. Like that's bad in the way that I don't like it.
Sure.
Like it's just like it's just not my cup of tea. But you're right. They're executing what they're going for. The Straight is actually like inexcusably poorly made. Yeah. And I agree with you that it doesn't seem to be any one specific piece as so much as a lot of different pieces that are all accumulating at the same time and like building this pyramid of disaster. Like, but I don't, and I've wanted to blame it on the writers for a long time, but then, you know, after like I've decided that was something I was going to do with the show, meaning our podcast, that I wanted to look and analyze like who had written what. I don't know that I feel strongly that it's the writer's fault completely. Like I think like the broad strokes of every scene are good, but then the actual like construction of the story arc of the entire season of every season is bad. And we've talked about this before, where it just sounds like they're all writing things independently and not talking to each other or getting script notes to be like, well, Feraldo acted this way in this episode, so she probably shouldn't be this way in this episode. Like there's that communication seems to be with a breakdown. But where else in the chain besides the writing could this be a problem? And that's what I've like the editing is good in terms of scene by scene, but the connective tissue between those scenes may not be great. Like, so I don't know, like this episode, like it's funny because I want to jump in starting with the Palmer nonsense because recently we did we talked about how I really liked the Nazi stuff. And this Palmer stuff is exactly the same thing as that Nazi stuff. And I hated this Palmer stuff. Like, although I'm glad that Bob from That 70s Show made an appearance for a second. Because fun story, I actually went to a barbecue swim party with his daughter when I was a kid and hung out with him for a day. Wow. And he was very nice. And now he looks very old, and that makes me feel old.
Name dropping Bob from That 70s Show. Wow.
What's up, guys?
Living the Hollywood lifestyle.
Yeah.
This is a betrayal of us common people. You're out there schmoozing with the Hollywood elite. The Palmer stuff is just like, this is what I was saying. Like I finally figured out what the show is trying to do, which is every episode for like the last 4, they've given us flashbacks, right, that are meant to illuminate some like indescribably minor point that we definitely didn't care about a character. Like here, it's like we're learning how the name Stoneheart Group came to be, and it's like, guys, I don't need to know. Like, there are 12 episodes of your show left for good. I don't know if I need an A story devoted to explaining the name of the Stoneheart Group. Like, and it's like, I mean, we'll talk about this with Feraldo too, but just tracking where the characters are in the audience's mind. It's like Palmer, this was the whole ridiculous Coco thing, and there are so many Coco Feraldo parallels that we're going to talk about. But
we're going to get to it.
This was the whole stupid Coco thing where the entire story was devoted to like softening Palmer in the eyes of the audience, but he's not that character. Like, he's not a character the audience is going to root for.
They're trying.
They're trying so hard. Why? Why are you trying to get me to root for Palmer? He's done so many terrible things. He is so unlikable. Why wasn't his head just ripped off? Like, why not just solve that little problem 10 episodes ago? But it's just like, I just don't understand why the focus on these flashbacks. What are they helping us get? What am I taking away from the, like, Poor Man's Mad Men episode that occurred in the background of this episode? where Palmer is doing a Pete Campbell impression. And like, we get this entire, like, 15-minute story about Palmer. It's like, what did I get out of that? Was it just so he could tell Eichhorst, like, I've been betrayed before, or some stupid, like, non-one-liner? Like, just like That's what we got? That's what you bought us with this screen time? Couldn't we have spent that doing anything else? And I felt the same way with Gus's backstory. I felt the same way with Fett's backstory. Like, all these, like, every episode, it's a new character, and we're gonna spend 20 minutes on this, like, backstory element that we're like 0 for 4 now, telling me nothing about who the character is now that is of consequence.
Hey, you know what would have been a great use of flashback in this episode? What? Like, maybe go back in Angel's life a little bit more.
Dude! R.I.P. Angel!
R.I.P. Angel! I mean, the Silver Angel!
The Silver Angel. We lost. There was a body count with this episode.
There was a body count with this episode.
Count, which is normally good. I normally approve of the strain killing literally any character. Because that gives us another shot at the plate to take another swing at it. Start a new character. Maybe it'll work this time.
They killed one of the 3 actually, like, objectively likable characters. There are a lot of subjectively likable characters on the strain, but there are 3 objectively likable characters on the strain, and one of them was Angel.
I mean, Fett, Angel, and Icarus, right?
Yeah.
That's the 3.
That's the 3.
That's the 3 characters that, like, are just good characters. Period.
Right. Like,
no qualifiers needed.
Like, great performance, great... well-written, well-rounded, fully dimensional, fully drawn-out characters. Yep, those were the 3.
In the case of Fett, he just has boom boom all the time and he's fun. It's like, I don't need a lot more from Fett. That's good. He knows his role, which is to blow things up and to give one-liners and to punch F in the face. It's sad to lose Angel. Again, it's one of the good characters on the show, one of the success stories. I will always remember his introduction, which was one of the best things the show has done, when it was playing that old black and white movie of him. Like, it just told me everything. Like, that was... Because
when Guillermo del Toro actually, shows up and helps out with the strain...
It just gets good.
It gets good. Yeah. Like, what's up, Guillermo? Why couldn't you just, sat around for 4 years and done this?
Guillermo, I know you're busy, bro. And listen, if you're busy making Pacific Rim 2, totally understood. This show is not going to reflect well. I mean, it will be forgotten in 3 years. It won't reflect really on anybody.
No, I'm gonna make a documentary. I'm gonna go find. This has gone from a documentary being made to me making it. I'm gonna go find these people and be like, what were you doing? I'm gonna ask them each one question, and that's gonna be the question, and I'm gonna see where it goes.
It's gonna be like an expose. It's gonna be like a Michael Moore documentary. You're gonna really get deep, figure out what's going on here.
How could this possibly happen on the network that is considered the best network right now?
It's the smartest, the best network. And it's a great source material. At least I can only speak to the first 2 books. Really good books, really translatable to television. They have a great cast. And it just has gone haywire. It has just gone bad. Yeah. Really bad.
Yeah. The script supervisor's job is to make sure that stuff is consistent. I feel like I want to bet that they just don't have a script supervisor.
Tell me, you've mentioned this a couple times. Tell me some inconsistencies. Let's actually, because we've been complaining a lot, we've only sort of barely gotten into the specifics. Let's get more specifics about this.
About the inconsistencies about the show?
Yeah, anything, honestly. Come on.
No, I know. I mean, well, do we want to start?
We could get into Feraldo if you want.
I know. I want to start with Feraldo. Yeah. I was trying to start somewhere not
Feraldo.
It has
to be Feraldo. Let's dive into the Feraldo problem.
Yeah. Hey, we're going to kill off this person who did, violated civil rights this whole season. And we're going to,
Without even addressing it.
Without even, without, somebody being and she's almost saved by Gus and Angel, the people whose rights she violated.
Yeah, not even brought up in dialogue. Gus's line vaguely references it, but it doesn't register with Feraldo. It's
he doesn't, nobody even gives him the direction, like the actor the direction. I'm sure like he challenged them, I hope, but like nobody even gave him the direction to like give her a mean glance, like, oh, I'm saving you.
Yeah,
like
right.
None of that.
The easiest thing in the world. Just the easiest thing in the world.
And like it's beyond obvious. It's not even questionable. Like that should have been something that happened. Like I don't care who you are. Gus talked about his rights being violated, and he acknowledged earlier in the season that Feraldo was responsible for it. And yet he goes and he just saves her. Like what? Or tries to save her. Obviously it doesn't work, but like what?
Yeah.
Like this is not a like we've got bigger things to talk about. I've seen lots of episodes of television where they're like, we've got bigger things to deal with, where like an army is coming, they're like, I'm gonna yell at you anyway. You know, like that was...
There will always be time on the strain for like a lengthy dialogue/romance scene in the height of battle. Don't you worry about that. Like if the strain had wanted to make time to actually address this and close the loop on the Feraldo story, they could have. They just didn't care or forgot that it happened. Because this is what happened with Coco, where Coco came on screen as a 25-year-old who apparently fell in love with an 80-year-old. And you and I both said on this here podcast, you can go back in our archive, we said, aha, she's a plant. She is being controlled by forces, or she's working on behalf of forces above her, and that is, she is infiltrating Palmer's organization, and we hypothesized about why she would be doing that, and we came up with a very viable and clever theory that she was working for the Master himself, tricking Palmer into sort of eloping with her, gaining access to his financials, and then having him be dispatched so she could assume the Palmer role, which is an elegant solution that would also get more powerful women on the screen. Another one, which we lost tonight, by the way.
Yeah, but I was going to bring that up at some point.
Yeah, of course. It's obligatory at this point. Another woman bites the dust on the strain. But no. As we found to our horror, I mean, we were talking about it as if it was a foregone conclusion that she was at least working as a double agent.
For somebody, even if it wasn't the Master. Like,
Ancients, could have been one of our main, could have been like, Quinlan, you know, could have been some party involved.
Could have been the FBI because of some tax thing. Like, it could have been anything. Yeah.
As we found out to our horror, no. She was just a 25-year-old who fell in love with an 80-year-old, and she was very quickly and like, summarily dispatched of in one episode out of the blue. It's like, well, I guess that was her story. And so here now, flash forward almost exactly 1 year, we have Feraldo.
Another woman
who is in a position of great power, and who we spent a lot of time focusing on earlier this season, her suspension of people's rights, of freedom of the press, I mean, my goodness, she took chain gangs, you know, she approved of them. Basically death squads that were, she was forcing prisoners to be enlisted in and sending them to their deaths. And she didn't start them, but she was complicit in it. And that was a huge focal point early in the season. And so you, I think, rightly said, okay, we are laying the groundwork for Feraldo to be a villain. And we sort of fanficked out, projected a scenario in which the humans are winning in New York, but Feraldo is sacrificing so many people that our heroes realize that she is as bad as the Master. And they have to make a call about whether we want to win the war this way. That, or whether like she's winning like Pyrrhic victories, where like we're gonna eventually lose all the people because she's just sending bodies into the pile basically, and that's where we're obviously headed with her, because the show is laying this groundwork with her imprisoning the reporter for no reason. Like, is that reporter ever gonna come back? What's going on?
Probably not.
No, why does she exist? It's like that character is written so that you can build a story on top of her, and that kind of story that we fanficked out, whether it's that or something else, is the kind of story you would build on top of that, of introducing a new character like that. Like, Feraldo's going too far. She's pushing the limits. She's maybe not even becoming power hungry, but she's becoming so singularly focused on stopping the threat, she's not thinking about the value of human life. And our heroes need to remind her of that. And if they can't do it, if she won't listen, then they need to kill her, even if it means winning a battle for the master. It's like, that is an interesting moral dilemma to put our heroes in. But no! Instead, though that 2-episode Feraldo arc was literally forgotten about, like an episode or two ago, when she was just Feraldo from 2 seasons ago, doing her best to stop the Strigoi. And then, this episode, she's just killed. And that's the end of Feraldo's story.
More deplorably, the next time we saw her after she violated everybody's rights was the time that she got the worm in her eye.
Yeah, right.
So she goes from being my projection of the supervillain to being super sympathetic because like, oh my God, look what happened. This is terrible. But I really hope that makes you come around on your ways because life is precious. Some kind of story that relates to all those things. But no, the Changing still happen, and she just is sad that she had a worm in her eye. And then now they just, without any fanfare, they just kill her. For absolutely no reason.
Just nothing. I mean, it just
there's no connective tissue. It's just it is.
Yeah.
She is a stock character that they do what they want with. Yeah. And that's how all of the characters are for the most part, except for the 3 that we really like, and one of which is R.I.P. But every character on the show is just we're going to just fit them into how we feel like fitting them in. And that's the major inconsistency issue. And I appreciate that you went through the entire Feraldo thing, because that is the best case of season 3. The best case of season 2, obviously, being Coco Marchand, a name I will never forget. These names.
Why do these characters exist? It just seems like, I mean, we got some enjoyment out of Feraldo there. She had some good episodes, she had some good moments. But how do you introduce a character and not have, an arc for that character? How are characters not being treated like people? It seems like such a basic thing for a serialized television show. It's well, here's where Feraldo's starting, here's what she's gonna do, here's where she's gonna turn, either bad or good, whatever. She'll have some event that changes her, maybe getting the worm in her eye, and then she's going to end somewhere. It's that's the kind of thing you sketch out when you're conceptualizing who the character is. I can't imagine a situation in which they did that process and said, okay, yeah, she's going to be sort of killed while escaping New York City. We're not going to address any of the stuff we brought up about her abusing civil rights. Good? Okay, yeah, that's the story.
While she's working with the people whose rights she abused.
Yeah, without it being really brought up by the show. But it's the other thing, let's talk about Gus. Because Gus in this episode, no mentions of his mom. He's just Gus, right? He is the same Gus that existed in episode 1 of the television show. Is there any change in demeanor, in manner of speech, in anything from who Gus was when he was with his cousin Felix? How is Gus and Angel fundamentally a different relationship than Gus and Felix? Go.
No, it is not. No, it's not. It's
the same dynamic that existed at the very start of the show. Gus is the same person. And yet he's been through all of this. He had this whole thing with his mom. For a few episodes, he was completely crazy and drawing his own blood and feeding it to her. And yet he is with no explanation as to why, he is the same Gus he was in literally episode 1.
Because as I said, they are these stock characters that they have gone, this is this character, this is this character's traits, and these are the stories we're going to put them in this time, and then we're going to pull them back out of that story, and it may or may not, probably will not, have any reflection on them in future episodes. It's just oh, we're going to drop this character in, and this is what we know about them, this is how they speak, this is how they act, etc. And absolutely no concern for anything that character has experienced otherwise. One of the reasons we like Eichhorst and Angel and Fett is, for the most part, they are reflective of their experiences. They grow. They change. Yeah. they adapt to the story that they've had. And for some reason, those are the only 3 where that is factual. For everybody else, you could maybe make some arguments. Like, I think Nora was pretty strong in that way for a long time. But Dutch and F and Zach and even Abe, to some extent, are characters that just are what they are when they're there. They don't like he was Abe, he was a prisoner in the Holocaust, and that is something we know about him, and he's a pawnbroker. That's something we know about him, and he can fight with a sword, and his hands were broken, and he's like he knows a lot about the Strigoi. But before he was having heart palpitations for a long time, and they just dropped that plot line, and that doesn't seem to be reflective of anything happening now. There's just all of these things where they give them something. This is a thing that they have to experience, and then we're just going to pretend we're not going to let that echo throughout the rest of the show. We're just going to be okay, well, we wrapped that up now.
Exactly.
And that's how they treat every character on the show.
Yes. We haven't even talked about F and Dutch.
Why do you want to talk about it?
Because we are wallowing in misery, Blair. We have to wallow completely, and that involves jumping back into the couch and talking about the F and Dutch romance, which begins okay, this is how bad this episode was. There was a scene in this episode, our first scene with F, where he is showering, and creepy music plays, and you see a gas mask emerge in the background. By the way, a gas mask has no relevance. It wasn't a Strigoi mask. Gas masks have no relevance in this story, but okay. A gas mask emerges in the background, and the music crescendos, and F goes, ah! And then Dutch reveals it's her. And that was not one of the 10 worst scenes in this episode. There were at least 10 scenes that were more cringeworthy than that scene, which caused me to dive back into the couch. That's what we're dealing with here. Okay?
Did you enjoy that GIF I sent you?
Yeah, that you found a very adorable couch dive that resembled my actions last week. This week, there was nothing as cringeworthy as the monologue that Dutch delivered, and of course, that monologue was heightened by the fact that this horrible, ill-begotten relationship is actually happening, and that realization combined with that monologue is really what put me over the edge. But now we're just living in the swamp. Okay, we have dived into the swamp, and last week was a shock to the system, and now we are just covered in swamp water with these two. Because it's gnarly and bad, and I hate it. I hate every second of it.
And they have no chemistry.
They have no chemistry. I hate them together. I hate that they celebrate by kissing. I hate the fact that Fett has to play jealous boyfriend again. Jealous ex-boyfriend, I guess. That he and F are getting into punching matches. Now it's guys!
But did that have anything to do...
Yeah, of course it did.
Did I miss something? Because I don't think that Fett knows.
Oh, Fett 100% knows. Did you see that look he gave her in the first scene when they were talking about something else, but he looked straight into Dutch's eyes? Fett knows. Her hair was wet from the shower.
He knows. No. He knows that she doesn't want him anymore.
No, he knows they are getting down. 100% Fett knows. Listen, he is Nicolas Cage, okay? When in an action movie, Nicolas Cage knows everything. Fett knows everything, okay? You could just assume that what the audience knows, Fett knows. Okay?
Alright,
so,
okay.
It's from the context clues, I'm assuming that he knows. It's just that the way he was...
Oh no, there were context clues, but there was no, actual agreement between the characters that they all had the same information. That's what I'm specifically saying.
It's awkward to talk about. It's not... They're not... Fett's not yeah, so you guys getting down now? No, there's no... I mean, even for the strain, no stranger to awkward dialogue. It's not a conversation that would be had, but... Fett knows they're living together. When he shows up, her hair is wet from the shower. I think he's putting two and two together. It's pretty obvious.
They're living together in his apartment.
In his apartment, right? And the fact that he's punching F, the Lumen thing happened like 5 episodes ago. Like, ostensibly that's what they're fighting over, but come on, we know that's not what they're fighting over. Fett's upset because he's sleeping with Dutch. Like, that's what they're doing that for. That's why it's a bro contest pissing match. Of course it is.
I strongly believed that it was just them having a general difference of opinion in the world. And I was like, it has nothing to do with Dutch. They're going to reveal that later. They haven't revealed it yet. He doesn't know. Like, that's where I was at.
Blair, you've got to get into the swamp. Okay? You've got to live in the world of which this show has built for us. The hellscape that this show has designed. The hell swamp that this show has designed for us, okay? They want us to feel this relationship. They want us to live in the nightmare that is F and Dutch. Everything is about that. Like Fett and F have worked together and had disagreements and had differences of opinion and all that. They didn't punch each other in the face. Like that's like an alpha male thing. You know, that's a bro thing. That's, you know, two brothers fighting over a woman thing. Like to me, like that just from the perspective of like knowing what show we're dealing with, of course they're fighting.
No, I know the symbology. I understand all that. Yeah. I am an
optimist.
I have so few like positive things to say about the show right now that I need to believe that they were actually fighting about whether or not to leave the city or whatever they were fighting about, the Oxydolumen. Whatever they were fighting about. Like, I just need to believe that it had nothing to do with Dutch because I have to believe that he doesn't know yet.
Well,
it's just like, that's where I'm at.
I wish I could join you on Planet Happiness. I wish I could join you on Blisstopia. Where you're blissfully ignorant of the realities of the show.
I am still holding out hope. The nuclear bomb... I cannot say that word. I've never been able to say that word.
Just power through it. No one can say it.
The nuclear bombs have arrived from the books to save us a little bit.
Blowing up everyone? Because yes.
By blowing up everything. Because that is like... I was like, yo, the bombs are here. What's up? Like we're going to do something interesting on this train for once.
Yeah. Blow everything up. That'd be great.
I mean, I'm not saying what happens in the books, everybody. I'm just saying the bombs are here to save us. That's all I'm saying. We're getting a really big boom boom, and I'm really excited about it. But I'm really worried because they like killed off Angel in such a way that I'm like, ooh, there could be others.
Yeah, because I mean, I watched, you know, that was covered in book 2. Some of the nuclear stuff and Angel's demise. Why? I guess we could talk a little bit about the book. Not like big picture spoilers or anything, but just like
but mild. So
mild
for people. So for folks who don't want to hear it,
if you still care about the story of this show, first of all, you're adorable. Second of all, minor spoilers ahead.
Yes.
In the book, Angel dies. Book 2. Angel dies in a one-on-one confrontation with the Master, in which he puts on his wrestling mask and delivers his professional wrestling finishing move to the Master.
The Angel's Kiss, right? Kiss. Isn't it?
It's like he gives the Master a Stone Cold Stunner.
That's pretty much it. Yeah,
the best moment from book 2.
It is so phenomenal, and I was like, I know they're gonna kill Angel off. I know they're gonna do it, but just hold out and let it happen. And then they were like, you know what? I bet we can't afford that scene. I bet that's all it was, that they just couldn't afford that scene. And so now Angel went up in flames.
Literally. The point of no return was when he started talking about fishing. Like,
I know.
Angel has had some, like, retrospective monologues in the last couple episodes that let us know that this was going to happen. We even said so on the podcast. But as soon as he started reminiscing about his childhood fishing spot, it's like, oh boy, the countdown Angel. Is on.
Yeah. But yeah, in the books, he goes out in perfect glory. Perfect. Like he doesn't take the Master out at all. But like
it needs to be stressed. The finishing move is ineffective. It is purely like just I'm going out on my terms, boom, rock bottom, and then the Master kills.
And if I recall, he's one of like 2 or 3 characters that the Master literally rips in half in that book.
The Master, one of the great tragedies of the show is that the Master doesn't rip nearly. It's like a 300% decrease in rippings in half.
Yeah, in the books, it's like constant. Yeah. It's awesome. That's like his signature. The Master's been here. Somebody's body is ripped in half.
Ripped like a zipper. Like
that's like grabs them from the head and still somehow is able to rip them fully in half. Yeah.
So I mean, Angel, I appreciated that he held up his cross, which is sort of symbolically similar, but putting on the mask is so much cooler. All I wanted to do when it became clear, like he was done. So he got stung. He sent Gus on his way. I wanted him to reach in his pocket and pull out the mask. And
wait,
right?
No, I mean you saw when he went up in flames that he had the mask on, right?
Oh, he did?
Yeah.
See, I didn't see that. I wanted the whole scene, but I'm glad he did. I missed that.
But I don't know if he put it on or if it was like a symbolic...
Yeah, because there was no scene of him. I wanted like slow motion Rudy music playing. Puts on the mask, raises the cross, and goes up in flames. Like I understand. Like it's great that they did reference the mask. I missed that, but it wasn't.
They did. But by the way, the music in that scene when all of them are dying is like nothing. It's like there's it like music's job in film and television is to guide you through the experience and to tell you how to feel. That's why your favorite movie soundtrack makes you cry when you hear it, because it's effective at what it does. It's telling the story with you. And The Strain, as far as I can tell, has no score. Like, it's just maybe stock music. I don't know. And, like, I feel bad if there is somebody who scores this. But, like, that scene, which is, like, the hero's end, and there's a couple sort of slow-mo parts. There's parts where they cut the camera to see them all falling apart, that they're all, like, you know, that there's no hope. There's no hope music. It was just music. Like, it was just normal... Like, I tweeted about it, too, that the music supervision on that scene was, like, hot garbage. Like, somebody should have sent that back to be like, hey, how about you make some people cry right now?
Right.
Like, why don't you even just give 10% effort to try to make some people cry right now? Because that was, like, 1% effort.
It's a big moment. It's for 3 named characters, Feraldo, Kowalski, and, of course, Angel, all going up in flames. Like, it is a climactic moment. And for the music to be generic and bland is inexcusable for a TV show. It's just completely inexcusable. Like, I understand if you don't want to spring for the rights to like a commercial song, but give us like something orchestral. Give us something that like really drives home that this is the moment of the penultimate episode. You know, this isn't Palmer playing Mad Men in his flashbacks. This is like a big moment where major characters are dying. And it's just like it's from the shows, and maybe it's because the show doesn't know how they want us to feel. Maybe the show doesn't know how we're supposed to feel about Feraldo.
Yeah. Well, given that they didn't have a theme song for 3 seasons.
Yeah, true. I don't. Yeah, I mean that's a great point. That's symbolic of so many of the other problems with the show. It's like it's a big moment. Come up with something, you know?
Right.
Put an exclamation point on it. Like, do they not know it's a big moment? Do they not like? Yeah, I don't get it. I don't get how the show continually falls on its face. Every time it has a chance to create a memorable moment or to create like a story that's coherent and memorable and makes sense, it just falls flat on its face. Every time it's presented with the opportunity to do something interesting, it does something boring and cliche. And and if it was being like devoted to the books and that's what caused that, then I would understand it. That I think is what's to blame for a lot of when Game of Thrones struggles, that frankly some of the book stuff isn't very good. And I love the books, don't get me wrong, but a lot of the books
they're coming for you.
There's a lot in those books. Those are some long books, and not all of it is good. And sometimes you have to sort of deal with that. And that's not to say everything bad on Game of Thrones is to do with the books. Sometimes they create bad stuff. Sometimes they create great stuff. It's a lot of material. The Strain does not. These are like 200-page books. These are not lengthy books, and they go way off script, which is fine. but then they make everything worse, which is not fine. Like,
yeah, that was another thing I wanted to talk about really quickly, because we said 30 minutes and we're going on an hour. But in the books, and again, spoiler tag, is Palmer the one who kills Icarus, or is that
no?
Like, no,
Palmer's. I don't want to spoil too much, but let's say no.
Okay.
Let's say there is no... Palmer never turns on Icarus in the books.
Okay. Okay.
The betrayal goes the other way.
Okay.
Palmer, or Icarus in the books, is killed by Abe on his way to the Master. Abe is chopping his way through a certain setting that is relevant to a certain bomb that was introduced in this episode.
Yes.
And,
okay. Yes. Okay.
And Icarus is dispatched of. By the way, I love Icarus. Okay, Icarus is one of the reasons to keep watching this show. Based on the events of the episode, Icarus should have been killed. Palmer, with his one cool thing he's ever done, the blanket hiding the shotgun, should have blown his head off. Because that would have been a memorable scene. You know what's not a memorable scene? Icarus running away.
Down the elevator shaft.
Not memorable, the strain. I love Icarus. I'm glad he's going to still be on the show. But if you want to give me a scene I'm going to remember past Tuesday, that's the scene. Palmer blows Icarus' head off. Okay, I'm sad to lose the character, but that's a gut punch that would register with me. Nothing in this episode registered. Which is shocking, because they killed off 3 named characters. Nothing registers. Nothing feels important. I don't know where we are. Like, the one thing that feels important is the bomb. The introduction of the bomb. But it's like, that you gotta do more than that. There are now 11 episodes left of the show. Like, right. I need more than that for the penultimate episode of the penultimate season. You know, I need moments that I'm going to remember. And... what am I going to remember about this? Next week, 2 weeks from now, what would anyone remember about this episode? That's the problem.
I think some people, based on Twitter, did actually care about Feraldo, which was shocking to me.
I get it. If they didn't make that same sort of leap you did, thinking ahead, I don't think Feraldo was ever portrayed by the show as being an especially negative character. I think she was portrayed by our own reality as being a character.
Yes, unfortunately being aligned with a pretty terrible election now.
Didn't help.
Right, which we talked about it during that episode. Yes. And then obviously I think people will remember Angel, even though it wasn't as climactic as I would have liked Angel's being, let go of. Because again, in the books, it's so just like jaw-droppingly awesome that it is a bummer to see him sort of go out.
It was like a 6 out of 10 on the cool scale. It was pretty cool.
Yeah,
it was cool.
Yeah, all of the vampires like crawling out from under the cars and stuff. Yeah, that stuff was cool.
I'm not saying it was bad. It just wasn't like an A+. You know, like right. I want the strain to give me like an A+ scene. Where we're just like, bam, like that happened. I'm going to remember, like, no matter what else happens this season, I'm going to remember that. Maybe I'll remember Angel, but then again, like, Angel wasn't a super significant character on the show.
No.
And we both thought he was dead going into the season. I think we just assumed, I think we kind of forgot where he was on the show.
Well, it was one of those things where I was like, oh, he dies in the second book. Right, yeah. He's gonna die.
Right.
Like in the books, he's not very central. Every character gets their own perspective chapters. You do get perspective chapters with Angel, but they're very few and far between, and more often you get Gus's perspective of Angel than Angel's perspective of something else. So.
Yeah, that's true. But he was in the books, and not every character needs to be a main character. He was a cool character in the books. He was a cool character on the show. It's just like, in the books he was like an 8.5 out of 10, and in the show he's like a 6 out of 10. And that has nothing to do with the performance. I thought the performance was great, and the sort of visual of the character was perfect. Like, he looked like what I would have thought Angel would look like, and it's just like the show just doesn't quite capture the totality of like who people are, like who characters are as people. Like, it just doesn't quite get there. Sometimes it almost gets there. Sometimes it completely whiffs, as with like Dutch, Coco, like those characters. Feraldo completely whiffs on their humanity most of the time. Although Feraldo had the one moment. I don't want to include her. But, and then with Angel, it's like the show, like overall, did a pretty good job with Angel, start to finish. Mm-hmm. But it's like, there's a lot of bad stuff. And if you want to balance that bad stuff, then you got to hit the home run. You know, you can't hit a single to right field. You got to hit the home run when you got something good. And they kind of do that with Eichhorst. And they didn't quite do that with Angel, even though it was a good character.
Yes. So R.I.P. Angel, we will miss you.
The character I will miss most who we lost in this episode.
So I would like to take a poll. Kyle, you tell me how you feel about this. You could veto this on the show. Bum, bum, bum. But I would like for people to tweet at us, because we always do a season wrap-up episode where we do heavy spoilers and things like that. And we will still do it no matter what the decision of this poll is. But I would like our listeners to let us know if Kyle should read the third book before the final season, or if he should wait to finish the final book until after the show has ended and we do a wrap-up in that way. So you could tweet at The Strain Pod, you could tweet at Kyle Loves TV or at Blair Loves TV to let us know how you feel. You could send us an email at thestrainpodcast@gmail.com. However you want to get a hold of us, let us know, unless Kyle vetoes this right now.
I am bound to the will of the people. Obviously, we are going to be like getting into book 3 next season, in the final season. So if you want me to have the book knowledge, then great. If you want me to continue to be in the dark, confused and angry, thrashing about, that is great too. I am fine either way. That's assuming that my couch does not eat me between now and the end of or in the start of the 4th season, because I might just live in the couch now. I might not make it to a 4th season of this podcast.
Maybe I'll put headphones in the couch so you can listen to the audiobook. How about that?
Perfect. That is you know what, Blair? You're a problem solver.
I am. Yeah, there's nothing else I can do with my life. I can solve problems. Come up with really good plots for TV shows that can't think of them themselves.
I'm depressed.
I am too. But it's okay. There's still a chance some things could turn around. The finale could be great.
I'm not. Okay, carry on.
It could. I don't know.
I mean, it could. It could. I feel like we've been saying that since like the first season. Like, hey, the next episode could be good. It's like some of the episodes are good. Oh, I'm ready. Yeah. I'm ready to sleep. I'm depressed. I want the show to be so much better than it is, and I want it to be fun and not boring and dialogue-y, because the dialogue isn't that good. And I don't want episodes like this to occur, where it's just like, we're just jumping around with a bunch of stories I'm not interested in. We're having a lot of upsetting character interactions, i.e. F and Dutch. And we're not hitting the moments that we should be hitting. There's a lot of plot happening, but not a lot of plot that feels like it matters. Like, this to me is representative of the Strain at its worst. Like, this is the worst version of the Strain, where it's just everything is muddled, nothing feels like it matters. There's just sort of churning through story points. That is to me the Strain's worst instincts come to life. That's why I'm so depressed.
Well, there might be a light at the end of the tunnel, and it might be because there's a bomb going off.
A very bright light. Take me, nuclear explosion.
I don't want to make our listeners sad anymore, so yeah. I'm going to wrap this up. But Kyle, yeah. I'm here with you, buddy.
Thank you.
We're going to try to have a good time with the next episode. We're going to try.
Blair, I always have a good time talking to you. I really do.
I do too. It helps. Sometimes it illuminates things. Sometimes it makes things better. Sometimes it makes things worse. You and I were carrying each other through the beginning of this season, but now we're both just hopelessly lost at the end.
Sometimes things just are the worst.
Well, this wraps up our 38th episode of the Strain Podcast. Before we go, I want to mention a few things. You can download and subscribe to our podcasts on iTunes, Stitcher, and SoundCloud. You can also hear all of our podcasts at our website, southgatemediagroup.com. Please subscribe to the show and also rate us. Follow the show on Twitter at The Strain Pod, and Kyle and I at Kyle Loves TV and at Blair Loves TV. And remember, both Kyle and Blair have an E at the end. Send us fan mail at thestrainpodcast@gmail.com. And don't forget to play #TheStrainBingo with us every week for a chance to be on the show. Thanks again for tuning in, and we'll see you next week for the Season 3 finale.